it's Caitlin and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to show you how you can make 5 budget-friendly Italian-inspired recipes all for under $5 each. This video is the second video in my 5 Under 5 series in which I go to a grocery store and challenge myself to come up with 5 different vegan meals, but I can't spend over $25. The first video in this series was a Mexican-inspired one, so if you want to check out those recipes, be sure to look at that video after you finish watching this one. I'll have it linked down below. So this time I decided to go with an Italian theme, and when I went to the grocery store, I got a bag of flour, some tofu, soy milk, garlic, a box of spaghetti, marinara sauce, frozen peas, nutritional yeast, regular yeast for making bread, 1 lemon, a bag of potatoes, some massive eggplants, zucchini, a can of beans, a jar of Italian seasoning, and this was organic too, and a carton of mushrooms. Just to clarify, I did have some of these items in my pantry already, so I personally didn't want to go out to the grocery store and buy them again because that seemed a little wasteful to me. So I'm just going to be using the items that I do already have in my pantry, but I did go out to the store and look at the prices on the shelf so you guys could know that this is totally feasible on a $25 budget. Oh, and one more thing. It seems like a lot of people of Italian culture or heritage get really offended when you mess up traditional Italian cuisine. So that's why this video is called Italian Inspired Recipes, because I'm just doing the best that I can do and I am by no means an Italian trained chef. So obviously take everything that I'm giving you with a grain of salt. I'm balling on a budget and I feel like most of my other budget ballers aren't Italian trained chefs either. So you guys probably don't care, but if by chance you do care, feel free to modify the recipe in order to make it better. Alright, now that that is all cleared up, let's just get to cooking.
Alright, so first we're going to make a marinara and veggie pasta, and the total cost for this recipe is 75 cents. So first you're just going to bring your pasta to a boil. I used a whole wheat spaghetti, but you can use whatever pasta you desire. Then you're just going to add a splash of water to a pan with some garlic, some zucchini, and some of our eggplant, and you're just going to cover that to let those sweat out a bit and cook down. Then once they've softened a little, you're going to add your beans and some marinara sauce. Then we're just going to cook all of that together until it heats up a bit, and then once the zucchini and eggplant have thoroughly cooked through, you're going to add in your pasta, and I added a little bit more marinara sauce because I thought there wasn't enough in the pan. Then I just stirred that together using some tongs, trying to be a professional, and I put it into a bowl, and I topped mine with a little bit of nutritional yeast for some extra cheesy flavor. And that's it for this recipe. Pretty simple to make. Next, we're going to be making some spaghetti with Alfredo, and this costs $1.27 per serving. So in the same way, we're going to cook our pasta first, and pro tip, you should salt your water. I know a lot of people get mad if you don't salt your pasta water, so just wanted to throw that in here. Then first, we're going to be sauteing some zucchini, and we're actually going to be using these in the sauce, so you want to peel them unless you want your sauce to look green. I actually got this inspiration from Lauren Toyota of Hot for Food. She just posted a pasta sauce recently with zucchini in it, and it'll make the sauce nice and creamy but add more volume at the same time. So basically we're just going to steam this in the pan with some water, and you're just going to cook it down until it's pretty translucent and soft. So afterwards we're going to make our sauce. So we're going to add some soy milk to a blender. Then you're going to add in your steamed zucchini, as well as 1/4 of a block of the tofu, a pinch of salt, black pepper to taste, some nutritional yeast, probably about 2 tablespoons, and the juice of half of a lemon. After you've added all of that to the blender, you're just going to blend it up till it forms your nice thick and creamy sauce. As you can see here, it was pretty thick, which is what we want for this recipe. So then in the same pan, you're going to add some garlic and some mushrooms, and you're just going to cook those down until most of the liquid that is in the mushrooms has released and they're more soft and tender and flavorful. And then after that, you're going to pour in the sauce that we made in our blender. Then I just stirred that around in the pan a little bit to heat up the sauce. Then you're just going to add in your pasta and mix everything together like we did the first time. And once that's all done, you can plate it up, and you could also top this pasta with nutritional yeast if you want, but I decided to top it with a little Italian seasoning this time to switch things up. Now we're going to get more creative and make some gnocchi, and the cost for this recipe is only 75 cents per serving. So first for gnocchi, we're going to roast our potatoes so we cook them, and you're actually not supposed to wash your potatoes because you want them to be as dry as possible. And once the potato is roasted, you're just going to slice it in half. You may want to let it cool a little bit more than I did, but you're going to scoop the insides out, so it doesn't really matter that you didn't wash it outside because we're not using that anyways. And you're just going to repeat that with all of your potatoes until they're in the bowl. Then you're just going to mash them up with a fork until there aren't any really big clumps. Then at this point, you're going to add some flour and salt to this mixture, and you're just going to stir everything together. And you'll be surprised at how much flour you actually need to add to this recipe in order to make the gnocchi. I found that I probably added around 3 cups, and I will say that this recipe made a little bit more than I was anticipating. It's probably about 4 servings, but after you've kneaded your dough for a while and put in as much flour as you want, it should look something like this. So you're just going to set the dough down and let it rest for a few minutes. Then after that, you're going to break it up into longer tubes, and you're just going to cut those tubes into gnocchi-like shapes. And you can make them fancier if you want, but I thought they were good like this. Then I just put them on a floured baking tray, and in order to cook our gnocchi like our pasta, we're going to bring a pot of salted water to a boil. Then you're going to add the gnocchi in, and once they rise to the top, that means that they're done cooking and you can remove them from the pot. So then for our sauce for the gnocchi, we're going to be making a pink sauce. So we're going to add some minced garlic, and then we're going to add some of our frozen peas. I thought this would be a nice compliment, and it's always good to eat some green things. Then for our pink sauce, we're just going to mix a little bit of our marinara sauce with our soy milk. You're just going to stir everything together, heat it up in the pan, and then add your cooked gnocchi and mix everything together and serve it up. Now, I didn't put enough gnocchi in this, so the sauce does kind of look kind of soupy, I will admit. But if you add actually like 2 servings of gnocchi, I think it would be enough. And I topped it with nutritional yeast because I am addicted and it's just delicious. So next we're going to be making an eggplant lasagna, and the cost for this recipe is $2.68. So we're not actually going to be using pasta in this recipe. It's the one gluten-free recipe in this video. We're going to be using eggplant for our lasagna. So I cut about half of one of my large eggplants into pretty thin sheets, and I also wanted to add some zucchini, but just in the filling for the lasagna, so I chopped that up into small pieces as well. And you can salt your eggplant and zucchini in order to get some of the moisture out, but personally I think it's easier just to bake them. So I put them on a silicone lined tray, and I put that in the oven to bake for a few minutes just so they would release their moisture. And in the meantime, we're going to make our tofu ricotta. So we're going to add 3/4 of that block of tofu into a food processor with some garlic cloves and Italian seasoning, plus 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a generous amount of salt and black pepper, and then the juice of the other half of the lemon. Then we're just going to put the lid on your food processor or your blender. You could do this in either, and you're just going to mix everything together until it is a smooth paste. And as you can see here, it's really creamy and kind of tastes like ricotta. So at this point, your eggplant and zucchini should be nice and cooked and dehydrated. As you can see, the eggplant's pretty thin and the zucchini looks nice and translucent. So to assemble our lasagna in an oven-safe dish, you're going to put down a layer of 1 or 2 eggplants and spread some marinara sauce over it. I did 2 just to make sure the bottom was nice and thick. Then for our layers in between our lasagna, we're going to add some zucchini, and I mixed some of our beans with some of those frozen peas and decided to put that in there as well. Then you're just going to add in a few dollops of that tofu ricotta we just made in the food processor to give it a nice cheesy flavor. And then once you spread everything around, that's sort of your filling for the pasta, so you can top it with more eggplant, and you're just going to repeat the process. So putting some marinara sauce, some zucchini and beans, and the ricotta, and then to top it off, I put in a nice thick layer of the marinara sauce, and then I put in a little bit more ricotta than I did in the filling just because I wanted to get a nice swirled effect. And I sprinkled some Italian seasoning on top just to give some extra texture and flavor. And then I baked this in the oven, and once it came out, it was nice and golden and bubbly. And I think personally this would probably serve about 1 person. So I served it up into a dish, and honestly, this was probably my favorite recipe that I created. I thought this was super delicious, and you didn't even need the pasta. Finally, we're going to be making a ricotta and veggie pizza, and the cost for this recipe is $2.41 per serving. So first we're going to make our pizza dough. If you want to buy your own pizza dough, you totally can, but I made one because that was cheaper and more budget friendly. So you're just going to add some yeast with warm water and sugar into a bowl. In the meantime, you're going to mix most of your flour with some salt and just stir that together until the salt is well incorporated into the flour. And by this point, your yeast should have bloomed and be nice and fluffy. And you're going to add a little bit of the unsalted flour to the yeast at this point, just to stir it together and make it nice and incorporated. And then you're going to incorporate the salted flour into the mixture. And you can start with it in the bowl and just mix it together. And then obviously, eventually the dough will get thicker and it may be easier just to knead it with your hands. I like to do it in the bowl just because I find it's neater, but eventually you will have to transfer it to a mat and just knead it with your hands for a few minutes. This helps the dough to get more fluffy. And then once you have your dough, you're going to rinse out that same bowl and then cover it with a towel and let it sit for about 45 minutes to an hour. So after the dough has doubled in size or risen, after that period of time, we're just going to roll it out. Like you guys know, I don't have a rolling pin. I just use a bottle of apple cider vinegar, but it seems to work for me. And then once you have your pizza dough all rolled out, you're going to transfer it to a pizza stone or a baking sheet. And now we're going to top our pizza. So we're just going to use some pasta sauce because that's all we have. And I think it tastes pretty dang similar to pizza sauce. Then I decided to add some chopped mushrooms, and I also added some zucchini and eggplant, but I just cooked them down first just so they would be completely cooked once the pizza went in the oven. Then I sprinkled it with some nutritional yeast because that helps makes it cheesy. Then we're going to use the other half of our tofu ricotta that we made for our eggplant lasagna. So then we're just going to put this in the oven, and when it comes out, it looks nice and golden brown like this. And I think the tofu ricotta looks pretty realistic and it tastes really delicious as well. And this is a perfect way to use up your leftover veggies that you had from the other recipes.
And those are my Italian-inspired budget-friendly recipes. I'm honestly still surprised at how much food I can get for $25, and obviously you can remake a lot of these meals too on that $25 budget. It's not like you can only eat one meal once. You definitely have leftovers. Let me know which recipe you want to make the most in the comments below, and also if you have a cuisine suggestion for our next budget-friendly video, let me know down there as well. I think last time the most popular ones was a Greek one, an Indian one, or maybe some type of Asian cuisine. So we definitely have quite a few options. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and be sure to click that little subscribe button down there to see all of my content. I post 2 new videos every single week. And if you're not new to my channel and you've been around for a while, thanks for sticking around, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, whatever time of day it is for you. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!